Ian.
Chris.
We're back. It's
Yes,
been
we are.
almost 28 weeks since our last video. 28 days?
28 days is closer.
That's what I meant to say. Damn it. Do we need to restart?
Yeah.
Nah.
Why pretend this is a quality channel now?
Why start now? Ian, we're back. Well, this isn't bad movie night.
No.
This is a grave review.
Grave reviews.
So maybe this is a quality channel.
Let you be the judge.
Well, that's it. Ian, we're back. We are talking about a classic movie because a sequel, trequel, is coming out.
Trequel. Yes, that's the word.
In the next few weeks that we are very excited for.
Yes.
28 days later.
No, 28 years later.
Right, but we are talking about 28 days later.
Yes.
This was your idea to kind of get hyped for the movie.
Let's just go ahead and get the joke out of the way.
Yep.
Sandra Bullock movie. Yada, yada, yada. We're at a sequel. Something rehab.
Something.
Okay, we got it out of the way. We're good. We can continue. Yes, 28 days
I
later.
never saw that. This
Scarecrow.
is probably my favorite zombie movie. That or Shaun of the Dead.
Both outstanding. I think if I have to pick, Shaun of the Dead is possibly my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, I was going to say. Think Shaun of the Dead just squeaks it out.
Yeah.
Very different.
I saw some just very quick glances of reviews online for 28 Days Later, and it's got to be people who were seeing it for the first time, at least relatively recently, and it's just like, oh, you did the same old thing, nothing original about this. I'm like, yeah, but you just saw a bunch of shit that was copying this. You know, is it the most original movie ever? No, I'm not gonna go that far, but it's done even if it's treading on well-trod ground, it does it better than anybody.
I don't even know if I agree with all that. We'll get into it.
In terms of themes, in terms of what happened, now certainly it's it's pioneering in some of its imagery and whatnot.
Well, I mean, this was the catalyst for the fast zombie, so it did change the whole genre.
It changed. It's important for sure.
But
in terms of what people are wrestling with, the types of dialogue, the actual events that happen, regardless of whether they're fast or slow.
Yeah, the themes of the end of humanity and how people deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And The Walking Dead spent years going over the same shit nonstop every season.
And if you've seen The Walking Dead, I can see why nothing about this story feels new and fresh.
Yeah.
But I think Walking Dead was inspired by this.
Yeah, of course.
He probably started writing Walking Dead 2 or 3 years after this movie came out.
This movie is inspiring in a lot of ways. Not just because, not even for the zombie genre. I could care less about making a zombie movie, but from a filmmaking standpoint, this movie is incredibly well made.
Yeah.
But before we get into our overall opinions, I guess we should say, if you haven't seen 28 Days Later, we're going to be spoiling stuff most likely, although I don't even know. Yeah, we'll get into some plot stuff. I think pretty much everyone's seen it at this point, but it is a movie not about zombies, Ian.
No, not zombies. Not zombies. It's a rage virus. People aren't dying and then reanimating. They're just infected.
And I think my ex-mother-in-law... Wait,
Yeah, a little bit more like rabies, but...
Rabies is good,
manufactured in a lab to be extra.
And I've only ever seen another movie that kind of deals with the same vibe. Same, science, sort of. Did you ever see The Sadness? I think it's a Korean movie. It came out a few years ago.
I don't think so.
Much more gory and depraved than this film.
The Crazies is kind of similar.
The Crazies is kind of similar, and there's also that, the guy who made Preacher, he has a whole series called Crossed. We should mention this movie's directed by Danny Boyle, who is a very notable director. Yeah. And then written by Alex Garland, who...
One of our favorites.
One of us has been compared to him in his filmmaking prowess. Who could say who? But,
I think this was the first time I'd encountered Alex Garland, and when he started, directing and doing other things, I'm like, oh, it's the guy from fucking 28 Days Later. He wrote it. That's cool. It's cool that he's directing.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was doing other things before. Probably was.
He's probably just sitting there.
Yeah, probably. I would say Annihilation is also one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, I love Annihilation. Yeah, so even just looking at this film from...
I'll watch Annihilation again.
We can do that. From a zombie writing movie standpoint, it's still a very well-written movie.
Dialogue's good. You've got distinct movements to the piece, whereas some zombie movies suffer from being a little bit one note. We gotta go from point A to point B, and just bad shit happens throughout. Like, kind of the music tone is the same, the types of action is the same. But this movie is not that at all. Like the beginning and the middle and the end could almost be different movies, other than for the same actors.
The third act is definitely a hard shift from the rest of the film. The middle part with the family unit growing is where a lot of the heart comes from. And I think it's because of, was it Brandon Gleeson? I forget the
Brennan.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
And Cillian Murphy's fantastic. And I don't know that woman's name, but she's great too.
Selena.
Yeah, character. Yeah.
But yeah, even these two adults, they do kind of look at him briefly as a father figure.
Yeah.
Which speaks to the gravitas of Brendan Gleeson. Like,
yeah.
You try to get me to play that role. There's no way that anybody's buying that shit.
I may have called you daddy once or twice in the past, Ian. I don't know. But yeah, I think the characters or the actors bring a lot to these characters, but the writing also brings a lot to the characters, and not one note. They're deep. They each have their own motivations, and they each have their own arcs. Which is fantastic.
And even some of the minor characters, some of the soldiers, like there's so much character built into very little development.
Yeah.
Like, just the way they're dressed kind of tells a whole story, and they cast perfectly. And it's impressive how much story they tell with so little screen time sometimes.
And I think if you watch this movie nowadays, I watched this movie in high school, or I guess it was right after high school.
Right around.
But I remembered it distinctively because it was so scary the first time I saw it in the theater. It's a very dark movie, and I think it's a lot of the way it's shot. Shot on those little mini DV. It's a digital camera, very low res, especially for nowadays.
Yeah.
But the movie opens with like documentary footage, and I think they kind of continue that kind of feel and theme throughout a lot of the film.
They wanted it to feel very
visceral, and real, and that's why we were talking when you were talking like and we bouncing around, but like the soundtrack you're talking about, like this could have just with another director just couldn't put in some new metal at the time. Like a Resident Evil style thing. But
if you're trying to tell like a badass, we're military guys, we're fucking blasting everything, isn't it awesome? Then you want the new metal. But this is definitely not that film. No. The soldiers are not the heroes here. No. The soundtrack and everything reflects that. Like, I think what impresses me, almost the most impressive thing about the film, amongst a lot of impressive things, is how confident the soundtrack is. Like, it really like takes its time. It's plotting. It's not trying to force the action through aggressive music. It's just like, nope. All the action's on the screen. We're just giving you a little bit of a slow kind of build kind of thing that just like it builds this anticipation and this tension.
Oh yeah.
In a really effective way.
I think another director like would focus entirely on this movie needs to be scary, but I don't think that's the way Danny Boyle approached this thing. It is scary.
And even the heroes sometimes appear to be doing the scary creature thing.
Yeah.
So like 28 Weeks Later, which is the only one in the franchise we haven't talked about yet, definitely looks a lot cleaner and crisper, but it's also a very different kind of movie. And it would have been assuming you're not changing the script, which I would if I could, but assuming you're not going to change the script, you don't want it to look like 28 Days Later. It just doesn't make sense for that movie.
No.
But it fits this story so well. Because it feels like a real day in people's lives. It doesn't feel like a movie in some ways, even though it very much follows movie logic, and they tell stories like a movie does. Things develop too fast, but you can't slow it down for a movie.
It's not like overproduced and pretty. I remember watching the new, what is that movie called? The New Evil Dead, and like the opening, they like go to a cabin.
From like 2014 or whatever.
No, like the one from the apartment building or whatever. The most recent one. But it goes to a cabin shot like near the beginning, and it's like so beautiful. And it's like,
I can be right for some things,
but it feels overproduced. It feels like everything feels manufactured. This feels grounded and real, and that's what I loved about it. So not so much.
I'm going to be curious to see what 28 years looks like.
I'm sure it'll be completely different.
Because you almost can't you can't do the same thing, and it would feel wrong and out of place, and it wouldn't look like of its time either. But also, like, I don't know, do you want the movie to look like it's the 2020s? Given that there's been a zombie apocalypse raging for 28 years, like, isn't a lot of things pretty stuck in place from 2003-ish.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, I guess I don't know. I guess we don't know what's going on in the rest of the world so much. Other than
we'll
what
find
we
out.
perhaps have learned in 28 weeks later.
Back to 28 Days Later. While some of the image quality sometimes is hard, especially in the darkness, there's incredible creative shots, lots of Dutch angles and stuff that I didn't quite remember. So
there's a scene with a character early in the movie, Mark, who's just kind of sharing his story of losing his family. It's just shot from such an odd angle. And that kind of establishes early on that, like, we're not trying to make this a pretty film. We're not trying to make it a, you know.
Oh, yeah, like Selena's bent over.
Yeah, like
just him.
You're kind of seeing, like, in profile, he's talking away from the camera, and it's, like, not even a very clear image. It's like, okay, this is interesting.
It feels like if you were there as a documentarian trying not to interrupt and just trying to capture that emotion and moment without ruining it.
Yeah.
And that's what I like.
Or without trying to make it perfect.
There's a scene where they go down when they first meet Cillian Murphy and they in the subway, and Celine starts telling him about like what's happening, but it starts on him and it's just a really, really slow pan through like nothing over to her. And I'm like, in a different movie, a different director, during that slow pan, they would have input the images of what she's talking about because they have to like pound it into the audience in some way, but they don't do that.
Yeah.
They just let it.
I don't think that makes sense for a societal collapse type of movie because, at least most, because you don't have access to all of human knowledge anymore, and that's kind of part of the point.
So let's talk about the infected. They're awesome. They're scary.
Yeah.
But
there's not even that many of them. If you like compared, especially if you think of like The Walking Dead or The Last of Us or World War Z, where there's just crawling all over the place. It's like in my memory, because I haven't seen this movie in many years at this point, probably my dozenth watch, but like it's probably been 10 years since the last time. But yeah, there aren't actually even that many. That's stunning.
There's not. But I like
the monsters were never the zombies, which, you know, if it doesn't feel original, maybe it's because people saw Walking Dead do that to the nth degree.
Man, it's weird now because I just watched that Last of Us last episode, and it's like, man, that is so crystal clean the whole time. It feels so movie-like. This feels much more, I don't know, this is just so much more visceral. I think that's why it's so much more effective, too.
Yeah.
But I love the infected idea. It does leave a lot of questions unanswered. Obviously, the way the infection spreads is shown in several ways. I like that they just vomit up blood on people.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
They do bite, but that's not even like the main thing they're trying to do, like typical zombie stuff.
But like, they're infected with rage, so is their desire to just kill?
Guess so. I guess
because like we don't even really see that. Like, there's a moment where they have a soldier and they're kind of like beating on him. I guess that means they're just trying to kill him.
Yeah.
Or is it just to spread?
Unclear.
I guess.
Unclear.
I guess it doesn't.
I guess
matter.
it's like a parasite where it's manipulating you, but to its own end. But you don't have conscious thought. Like I know some people say they're not zombies, but like it's kind of zombies, at least in the sense that I don't think they are fully conscious anymore. You can't consider them sentient.
Yeah.
There's the trope of you can't treat them like your family. You got to kill them. You got to do what you got to do, and that's there too. But like I truly don't think that you're killing a human if you're killing somebody infected with the rage virus. Like whatever happened to them, it's the spark of whether it's the soul or consciousness or whatever you want to call it. It's gone.
Yeah. So the title 28 Days Later is 28 days after infection. Okay. And I like the title. It's evocative. It's like cool.
Yeah, 28 days later after the monkeys get released from there.
But there's a couple moments in the storyline where if you look at them, it kind of reveals some like plot holes maybe or questionable things. Like, how is Jim still alive in the hospital?
Yeah.
Like,
he would have dehydrated a while
He would have
ago.
been,
Although, in fairness, we don't even actually know how long he's been abandoned for.
We don't.
So it's been 28 days since the zombie virus broke out. He doesn't know, so he's probably injured at least around that time.
Yeah.
But maybe somebody was trying to carry on and has only been gone for 4 days. They finally gave up and just said, fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, it seems unlikely.
Unlikely. I'd agree with that.
So that's one that I can let go pretty easily. I don't really care that much.
Breaks the movie if you're going to lean into that.
The other one is the motivation of the soldiers. If it's only been a couple weeks, it's like you're turning into, rapists overnight. I mean, I don't know. It is an apocalyptic scenario and all that stuff.
It is an apocalyptic scenario, and I guess my answer to that is that's probably what they always wanted to do, but felt like they couldn't.
Maybe.
And then you removed the incentives to behave.
Removed any sort of rules of society and anything like that.
Like especially some of the main soldiers, the only person that might punish them is their leader. And that's not the thing he's going to punish them about.
And they do show that, like, another one of the soldiers is not okay with it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the first time watching this movie, I was like, I don't know if I needed that part of the storyline.
I think that's part of establishing that the people are the monsters.
Sure.
And I think they walked the line really nicely in terms of how far they walked up to the line. Because, like, I don't need to see more rape in movies. It's just such a ridiculous trope.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
And it trivializes it how often rape is just used as, like, there's a bad guy. You can tell because he raped. But they forget that it's supposed to be awful and they just make it sexy.
I mean,
and, like, this doesn't do that. Like, it walks up to the line and it doesn't cross it in a way that makes it clear who the bad guys and who the good guys are, but also doesn't, like, sexualize it in any way.
I guess you're right. Like, they just, it's their motivation, but it doesn't get to anywhere where it feels like exploitative or anything like that. And I get the theme of the real monsters are the people, but I'm not even sure if that's quite the theme, because
it's not the only one for sure.
The monsters are certainly monsters as well. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's more that the rage or the violence is in us all in some ways, because Jim certainly has it as well, but he uses it more for good or in order to save.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. In a righteous way.
So
yeah, I mean, definitely, I think the theme with the one soldier who had a problem with everything and talking and just generally talking about how people have always been killing each other. It's like the leader even suggest the last 4 weeks I've been watching people kill each other. The 4 weeks before I also saw that.
Right.
And the 4 weeks before that was also happening. Now, there's a difference in scale.
Sure.
There's a difference between being a murderer and a serial killer. But yeah. Like, I think people being the monsters is a theme, but they're certainly dealing with a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I was thinking about the opening scene where the animal rights activists break in and they want to free the monkeys.
Yeah.
Which releases the virus. Do you think that is intended to be any kind of indictment of, like, short-sighted activism? Or is it just like, no, it's just the setup to do the shit we want to do? You know? Like, it's perhaps an unintended thing. Like, it's the thing I hate about science fiction movies sometimes, especially if it's, like, based around some specific scientific principle or concept or invention, where it's like, okay, we've got this cool idea. Okay, but it's a movie, so something bad needs to happen. So the cool thing needs to be it's like Jurassic Park. Kind of ends up being an anti-science movie if you think about it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was ever intentional. But that's what I wondered. Is this was it unintended?
The only thing I would comment, and maybe this would be a stretch, is that the movie's whole thing is that it's a rage virus, a very animalistic emotion, right? And maybe these people are acting on emotion rather than logic.
Yeah.
Because they are told that the monkeys are infected. Do not let them out. It spreads in blood and saliva, and they immediately let them out because they feel bad for them.
Yeah. And they could have asked more questions. I could certainly understand why in their position they might not believe that guy.
Yeah.
He might be pulling their leg or just trying to get them to not do what they want to do.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know, man, maybe ask some questions. I think if I want to analyze the people are the monsters thing, it's people created the virus. It's not something that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's not like somebody went to the Congo and got bit by a wild animal and discovered a new virus unknown to humanity and then it spread.
From our understanding, it was made in a lab.
Yeah. So it's made by humans. Humans did this. And even if you say the zombies are the monsters, it's humans' fault that they are.
Yeah.
And I guess just conflict between humans is inherent. So if you're going to create something like this, it's going to get out because there's going to be conflict over it. And maybe it's not intended to say anything specific about the animal rights activists.
Well, so...
the clit, if you will.
And they show you how, in the opening scene, the monkey's tied down, being forced to watch,
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange, just visions of violence and depravity. We are glossing over...
Does that even... It's such a weird setup, too, because does that even matter? Like, if you're infected with a virus that makes you angry, you need to watch something?
Well... they're doing tests, so maybe some are infected and some aren't, and they're trying to see, like, what the difference is. You don't know. They're trying to cure it, too, and they say.
The answer is probably just, looks great on film.
I think like, one of the only lines the doctor says is, like, in order to cure, you have to understand or something. So, sure. I don't know. I don't really know. But we're glossing over the elephant in the room, Ian.
Mm-hmm. If just one drop can get in your eye.
Oh, well, that's not even the elephant I was talking about. You don't know what the elephant is?
Are we talking about the alternate ending that they ended up scrapping?
We can get into that.
We'll get
That's
into
not it.
Okay, what's the elephant? I don't remember seeing elephant. Oh, the giraffes. It's not an elephant, it's a giraffe.
No.
Okay, go for it.
It's goddamn British. It's an British movie, and I think that's why I also like it a lot.
Okay.
Not
going to get an argument out of me, but explain yourself.
28 Weeks Later brings in all these Americans.
It does.
And it brings in more Hollywood feel.
And that's on purpose.
It's on purpose.
It's supposed to be a bit of an indictment of
sense.
like American intervention in foreign countries.
Sure. But I think it is telling that like my two favorite zombie movies are both British.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I love that about it.
Mm-hmm. I think just separating a pinch from your own culture can make things more interesting. It throws you off. That's why I like foreign horror in general.
Yeah.
It just throws you off a bit because you're not going to get necessarily the same cultural norms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Britain's close enough to ours that it's often recognizable, but even just like subtle differences can make a big difference in an extreme situation.
Yeah, I think the setting, like I'm trying to picture if this was in the United States, like where would it be, like a suburban town? Would it be New York?
Yeah, I mean,
Philly? Like it just,
the answer to that is the Dawn of the Dead remake, right?
Yeah.
Like the Dawn of the Dead remake is the American answer to 28 Days Later in many ways.
And while I like that movie, it is nowhere near as good as something like this, though.
They're so different. It's hard to even say one's better than the other. I'm sure there's plenty of people that love one more and other people love the other more.
I think the difference is in the direction. Like one's more of a, action-y scale. Like there's more...
Yeah, there's more zombies. There's more named characters. There's more storylines.
And the other's like a more art house kind of director who brings a lot more vision and style in a way that the other one just is more mainstream, I guess.
It is more mainstream.
Yeah.
And 28 Days
I
Later,
like them both.
to some degree, paved the way for that.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that I don't want Dawn of the Dead to be more like 28 Days Later either.
No, I want it to be its own thing. Yeah.
And it's also not excessively like the original Dawn of the Dead either. Okay, I like both Dawn of the Dead's version. I don't even know if I could pick a favorite. Don't come at me in the comments.
We don't get comments.
They're both, yeah, that's fair. I mean, they're both great films, and I don't need to, bring one down to raise the other up.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
So, what's the alternate ending?
Alternate ending. So they didn't film it, but they did storyboards for it, and it's on the special features on the DVD.
Interesting.
So the idea is after Brendan Gleeson, spoilers, gets a single drop of blood in his eye and is going raging out in under a minute. The idea is they like drag him, like they realize, okay, there's like a basement hospital here, and they drag him down there, and they do like a full like blood transfusion. But they did recognize, like, oh yeah, if we establish that one drop of blood in your eye can completely make you rage out in 1 minute, you can't just get rid of all the blood and put in fresh blood. Like you can't, even if there's something to that, you'll never get it all.
No,
so
that's silly.
It's a cool idea visually, and it's interesting direction to go, but it's not plausible even a little bit. I think this movie would have been forgotten by now. They actually tried to do that, or treat it as a little bit more of just a silly kind of a movie.
Anything else with 28 Days Later?
I think that's about all I got.
Would you recommend it?
Hell yeah. It's one of my favorite all-time films, for
so
sure.
Good. It's so fucking good.
For sure.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode.
It's going to do it.
We talking about 28 Days Later. Maybe next time we'll be talking about 28 Weeks Later.
Like you, I love it for its flaws.
And I have many. All right. We'll catch you next time, guys.
You're a bit grainy.
And fat.